Have you expressed your own longings in this book, possibly a desire for adventure, for example?
I think most writers, when they write, they're expressing something of their own longings, no matter what they're writing about. If they're writing about family or home or war or adventure or whatever. I do think that as a child, when I read stories like this, like Ivanhoe and the Knights of the Round Table, I did identify with the characters and their quests and their desires for uh, honor and victory and battle and all these other things that come out in these stories. So I think anytime you sit down to write anything, you're somewhat expressing something of your own desires.
How do you go about writing? Did the story tell itself, as many authors describe, or did you plan it down to the last detail before you began writing?
Well, the way I approach writing is to not, especially fiction, is to not plan it out to the last detail. I know a lot of writers, friends of mine, that do that compose very detailed outlines down to the very most minute detail. I usually start out with sort of an umbrella of a story. I know where the beginning is, I know where it's sort of going to end up, and then I let the characters take over. I found in writing fiction that usually my characters, at least, are much smarter about the story. They know more about what needs to be told than I do. So I just sort of let them take over and tell the story.
Did you draw on your own previous professional experience when you were writing, knowing from a publisher's perspective how a successful novel should work?
I'm not sure that I drew on any specific professional experience. I think my professional experience gave me an advantage in that I have read numerous books, probably too numerous to mention. And I've gotten an appreciation of writers and commercial fiction and how they tell stories and how good writing works. And I think that so my profession has given me an advantage in terms of exposure to writers, exposure to great stories, and exposure to the process that maybe some other writers haven't had.
How did you research the historical background?
I researched the historical background starting a long time ago, actually going back to my college days. I was a history major when I was in college, and so research became something that I really enjoy. I don't even consider it research. I spend a lot of time reading history, biographies, stories about prominent people from all the various periods of history. For this particular book, when I knew I was going to write about the Third Crusade, I researched and read literally dozens upon dozens of books, from biographies of Richard the Lionheart and the Saladin to stories about medieval life, just journals and letters and diaries of people who lived during the 11th and 12th century to try to get an idea of what life was like. A good example of my research is the secret passage in the Crusaders' Palace in the city of Acre, which actually exists. Their Templars did dig a passage from the altar of the Crusaders' Palace to the caves below the city. And I uncovered that in my research, and I was actually able to put that into the story and add those kind of rich details that that type of research will bring to you.
There's so many likable characters in your book that readers can easily identify with. Which is your personal favorite?
Well, I think asking a writer to choose a favorite character is sort of like asking a parent to choose a favorite child. I'm not sure that I could really do that. Obviously, Tristan, the protagonist of the story, is someone who's very close to me. He's my voice, obviously. But in terms of the story and the actual writing of the characters, I really enjoy and have turned out to enjoy Robard very much. Robard is one of those characters that I think writers love to write and that readers love to read, because he's the type of person that we all sort of wish we could be. He does what he wants to do, says what he thinks without much regard for consequences or for people's feelings. He has this great sense of the right and wrong in the world. He's profoundly opposed to injustice. He wants to do something about the injustice of the world, but he's young enough yet that he doesn't quite know what to do. But he's got this personality and force of nature to his being that really adds to the story, and he's become, I think, my favorite to write. And I think readers in book 2 will really see development of his character and his personality as he comes to grips with who he really is.
What did your children and their friends say when they read your book?
Well, my children have both read the book. I have 2 children, a son and a daughter, and they obviously told me that they enjoyed it very much. My son is a big fan from the time he was a small boy. We read all kinds of stories like this, books about mythology and legend and myth. He loved Greek mythology when he was a youngster. He's 22 years old now, and he still reads a lot of history and myth and legend. And so this book is actually dedicated to my son, Michael. And it's the type of story that we enjoyed reading together when he was younger. And he has actually come to enjoy it very much.
The first volume of the Templar trilogy ends on a cliffhanger. Your readers will be eager to read the sequel. What consolation can you offer your readers while they wait?
Well, what I can offer you is that you'll find everything that you found in book 1 that you enjoy, you'll find in book 2 to a factor of 10. There'll be some new characters. I'm not going to say too much, but perhaps a little bit of a love interest for Tristan will appear on the horizon. There'll be some new evil people that will show up that will try to thwart him in his quest. And you'll see that he and Robard and Miriam become a much stronger team, form a closer bond of friendship, and you'll have all the action, all the excitement, all the adventure, all the suspense that you had in the first book, just ramped up by a factor of 10. And if you want to go to my website, www.michaelspradlin.com, in a few months you'll be able to read a sneak peek of book 2, and that will whet your appetite.
Thank you.
Thank you.